Our guest on Personally Speaking today is Liz Callaway, incredible singer, wonderful interpreter of song, and a previous guest on our show. We're delighted to welcome Liz Callaway back. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Msgr Jim Lisante, and the Tony-nominated and Emmy Award-winning actress and singer Liz Callaway joins me now. Liz made her Broadway debut in Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along. She received a Tony nomination for her performance in Baby and for 5 years won acclaim as Grizabella in Cats. She also starred in the original casts of Miss Saigon, The Three Musketeers, and The Look of Love. Liz Callaway has also established a major career as a concert and recording artist. She's released 7 solo albums, and her latest one is called To Steve with Love. Liz Callaway Celebrates Sondheim. Liz has been performing her latest shows, celebrating the songs of Stephen Sondheim in London and San Francisco, and she'll be premiering a new show with her sister Anne Hampton Callaway at 54 Below in New York City. Liz is here with us today to talk about her life, her career, and the values that matter the most to her. Joining me now, I'm so pleased to welcome back to Personally Speaking, actress and singer Liz Callaway. Before we get to our interview with Liz Callaway, let's listen to her singing the song Move On by Sondheim. She's singing here with her son, Nicholas.
That is not like you.
I've nothing to say.
You have many things
Well, nothing that's not been said.
said by you, though
I
short.
do not know where to go.
And nor did I.
I want to make things that count, things that will
I
be
did what I had to
new.
do.
What am I to do?
Move on. Stop worrying where you're going. Move on. If you can know where you're going, you've gone. Just keep moving on. I chose and my world was shaken. So what? The choice may have been mistaken. The choosing was not. You have to move on.
Liz Callaway is our guest. We're delighted to have her back after getting together in 2013. Liz, thanks for being on the program.
I'm so happy to be back, and I can't believe how long it's been.
I know. I went to a couple of your shows at 54 Below after we did the interview, so I have seen you actually, and I got to talk to Dan, your husband, and he said to me, she actually liked that interview. And I said, good, Dan, I'm glad to hear it. We enjoyed
No,
having her on.
I remember it was lovely and very thoughtful, and I'm just very happy that you're still doing this.
Yes, I am.
And that I could be back on the show.
Well, I'm glad too, because you do great stuff, and I want to share it with the people who watch and listen around the world. I'll start by kind of putting this in the direction of the loves of Liz Callaway. John and Shirley, your parents, when you look back on their life that you shared with them, what do you love about what they did for you and the family? How did they raise you? What did you learn from them? What contribution did they make to making you the great person you are now?
Well, my mom and dad, one of the things that I'm very grateful to them for them was giving me a certain confidence that whatever I decided I wanted to do with my life, I could be great at it. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I was so shy growing up, and I wouldn't sing in front of anyone. I'd only sing when they left the house.
Wow.
And then my dad tells a story of that one day they came home from church and they heard this voice, and they were like, oh my God, but they never told me. They never said, oh, we heard you singing. So I didn't feel the pressure.
Right.
And it wasn't until I kind of discovered music and theater, like halfway through high school, which is sort of late actually, compared to other people, that if I wanted to be a garbage collector, they gave me the feeling could be the greatest garbage collector. I could do anything that I put my mind to. And so I really appreciated that they gave me a quiet confidence,
Right.
that I was enough and I had something special to offer. I'm also very grateful they introduced me to Sondheim music. That was actually huge.
Yeah.
And I dedicate my new album of a live recording of a Sondheim tribute show I did. I dedicate it to them because they didn't realize the first Broadway show I saw was Company, and I was like 9 or 10, but my mom and dad saw the show first, and they brought home the cast album, and I was just, I was enthralled, and I listened to it all the time. I memorized every song on it, not knowing that then I would ultimately end up doing Sondheim and making my Broadway debut on a Sondheim musical 10 years later.
Yeah.
And, but that was really important. That was sort of the beginning of my falling in love with Broadway and musical theater. So
Liz, when did they finally tell you that they'd been in the house and heard you sing?
Oh God, years later.
Wow.
I think it was years later. I think I was, definitely an adult, and
Right.
because I was just incredibly shy about singing. And it really wasn't until my parents got divorced when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I started doing theater more for social reasons, to have a community and to have like friends for the first time and a family feeling. And that's what attracted me to doing theater. And I thought, oh, okay, if I can get over my shyness and my fear of singing in front of people, then I can have this in my life. And
Right.
so it's maybe not it's an odd thing maybe to thank your parents for getting divorced, but sometimes there's so many things
Right.
that have happened in my life, and I thought, boy, if that hadn't have happened, I mean, maybe I still would have discovered that was my passion and realized it was my gift from God to sing. And but I don't know.
Did that shyness extend to relationships with boys at that point, or were you shy in general? Was it just about singing?
Oh yeah. Oh no, boys too. I mean, I was a very late bloomer. So I did not have I was a late bloomer in all ways.
Well, but it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. And following up on something you mentioned early on, you said mom and dad were coming back from church. Where were they going to church, and did they pass that on to you too, the whole faith part?
Not so much. I rebelled.
Okay.
Against church. I really did. We weren't big churchgoers, but there was when my parents were still together, there was a Protestant church on Wellington Avenue that they really liked. Reverend Jim Kidd, who actually I liked his sermons, but
Okay.
I was a non-believer
Okay.
in many ways until I became, maybe it was 18 or 19, and then found my own,
Right.
my own path, not necessarily through organized religion.
Well, what's interesting about you saying that is one of the concerts that I went to, you were singing with your sister Ann, and I love all your stuff, but you did a version of Mary Did You Know, and it was like a spiritual high for me, that song, a whole different way of approaching the Mother of God kind of thing. But let me move on with this theme of mine of the loves of Liz Callaway. Dan, you're obviously physically attractive, very talented, very bright. You could probably have any guy in the world. Why did you say, no, I'm settling down with this guy. This is the one for me. What did Dan have that made you say, this is it?
Oh, that was you know, he's that I don't quite know how to answer that. He saw me in the show Baby on Broadway and pursued me during the run. He liked what he saw on stage, and I was shy, and I was just kind of like, I don't want to go out with this guy. He's probably nice. He's very nice. I could be friends with him, but as I said, I was a very late bloomer.
Yeah.
And he was very kind of persistent, not in a creepy way, but we knew a lot of people in common. And then finally he was like, all right, I'm just going to leave you alone. So I went out I thought I should have a drink with this guy and tell him that I'm sorry if I've been a little standoffish, but I always hated when women led on men or would have like dinner with someone just if they weren't interested. I just thought that was so unfair, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I thought I should tell this guy I'm sorry if I've been standoffish, but if you want to be friends, great. We closed 3 restaurants. And
you told him, Liz.
We moved in together 2.5 weeks later, and he was just. We were meant to be. Yeah. He was just so. He's just what I waited for my whole life without even knowing it. Wow. And we've just celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary.
I guess it's working, huh?
It is working. But it's funny, as someone who is not, and he grew up very strong Catholic family, Catholic background. And I remember when we were first dating and we went on a trip to Rhode Island where he had gone to college to meet like his best friend. And we pulled into right in front. We were living in Chelsea at the time. We pulled into a parking spot, and we were just sitting there. And we both felt like God come into the car. Wow. And this is someone who really, truly was not religious, but it was like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. This is just, it was, and so there was that. It's so interesting. You're the only person I've ever done a podcast interview or an interview with about God. Wow. That's who I think I remember liking talking to. It's really interesting because it's not something I talk about. Right. But it was a profound moment, and it was like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be together. Yeah. And and it's, like anyone, it's, it's you have your challenges through the years, but I'm so lucky. He was in a car accident in May of 2020, and he was in the hospital for a week, and he was very lucky to be okay after broken ankle and I think 12 broken ribs. And ever since that, and of course it was during COVID, so I couldn't see him. Right. But every morning, I generally wake up before he does. Every morning, I give him a big hug. And just the day starts with a big hug. I bring him his coffee. Anytime we go anywhere, I'm going to go to the grocery. Oh, yeah, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to whatever. Right. Hug and a kiss goodbye. Yeah. Because you never know. You don't know. And, then you and Dan decide with the help of God to create new life and bring Nicholas into your life. But I often wonder because, anyone looking at your biography knows that part of your life is you're always traveling on the road, giving concerts, doing shows. It's a very move-about life. And the decision to raise a family has to be something, I remember Katharine Hepburn in an interview saying, I'm much too selfish to have a child and try to raise her and the child. And I understood her whole life was, I guess, her career, her art. But you've done both. You've done the mothering of this beautiful, wonderful son, so talented in so many ways. But how did you do it all? How do you raise a family and be on the road? Well, I didn't really start traveling and going on the road really until Nicholas was in high school. Mm. The first 8 years of his life, I was on Broadway. Okay. Doing Cats and Miss Saigon, and he was born during rehearsals of Miss Saigon, funnily enough. But I also had I was very lucky. I had the kind of role where I had like 15 minutes of stage time. I had a good agent and producers who were willing to let me have him be in my dressing room.
That's so cool.
So I didn't experience the same guilt in the beginning of his life that I probably would have otherwise I was very, very fortunate. Dan and I had thought, we'd like to have a child someday, but we were so involved in our careers. And for 3 years, I did a TV show in Boston, and I had like a regular schedule, and I had weekends off for the first time and summers off from this television show I did. And so I felt some security. So I was like, one day I really went, okay, I want to have a child. I'm ready. Okay. Had I been in New York doing theater where you never know what your next job is going to be, it would have probably been easier to postpone it or work, but, and then when I had Nicholas, it's like, my career is very important to me, but nothing is as important as my my family. And, I remember having a moment in the hospital nursing Nicholas and truly thinking, this is why I was put on this planet. To be a mother to this child.
Yeah.
And
but let me ask you, did you traumatize him by letting him see you dressed as a cat?
Oh no, he loved cats. He wanted to say, he had his own character. He called himself Tam Candle. And they gave him his own little wig and his own little tail. And on my day off, Mommy, let's play cats. I'm like, no, please. He loved it. He loved it. But he did, he had an unusual upbringing. That's for sure.
And he turned out just fine. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yes, he did.
One of the first interviews I did 100 years ago was with Margaret Hamilton, and I said, did you show him the movie The Wizard of Oz? And she said, never. She said, I don't want my son to think of me as the Wicked Witch of the West. She said, let him be a teenager at least before he sees me as in that role. She wouldn't let him see it as a kid.
Wow.
He knew his mother was the Wicked Witch, but he never saw the movie until it was time. And how's he turned out, Nicholas? He turned out to be a good kid?
He's turned out to be an amazing kid. He really, he's 31 now, unbelievable. And he's just, and we're very close. We text or talk every day pretty much. And, he just got recently, he got his MBA at NYU Stern, but he also still sings. He sings with me on my Sondheim show and on my album. We did Move On together. I don't know if you're familiar with the song Move On.
Yes.
But it's from Sunday in the Park with George, and not usually sung by a mother and son. But my Sondheim tribute was so personal, and I thought, here's a whole new way of looking at this song. And so he's got a beautiful voice, but he also has his own startup company, and it's so wonderful to see him so happy. It
was beautiful to read a review that obviously the reviewer loved you, but he went on to say that this kid is not getting this job because he's related. He's also got a magnificent voice. And now, can Dan sing, by the way?
He does sing. He not really anymore. He's a director. He was an actor when we first met, and but he does sing. He's got a lovely voice. But I haven't, except for like Christmas carols, I haven't heard him sing.
But that's good.
We did Baby together, actually, shortly after we got married. We did it in Chicago. And so we got to play opposite each other, which was incredible.
There's another great love in Liz Callaway's life, and it is her wonderful sister, Anne Hampton Callaway. And I mention that because, and we talked about this back in 2013, it's so often that two people who are talented in the same family can be competitors, and you guys are not only not competitors, but you obviously on the stage have a deep, deep, wonderful bond. What do you love about Anne?
Oh, God. I love everything about her. Her kindness, her optimism, her support. Yeah. She's just, she's always there for me. My cheerleader. She's hilarious. And we just, it's when
That's
we were
great.
kids, I was very competitive with her because I was a late bloomer and she did everything perfectly and I didn't know who I was. And it was hard to be her little sister. And it wasn't until we moved to New York together and I was 18 and she was 21. And we realized we had, we're very different in many ways, but but we're just so close.
Mm-hmm.
And she moved to Tucson about 5 years ago, which, it's at first I was just devastated because she used to live 5 minutes from me. But in some ways, now when we get together, it's even more special. You don't take it for granted. And we're doing a week of shows at 54 Below Thanksgiving week. So we kind of made a pact. We need to be together at least for one, either Christmas or Thanksgiving. We need, because we went a few years where we didn't get to see each other, of course, because of the pandemic. So it's like, we're doing a Thanksgiving show together, which I'm so excited for.
We're going to direct a lot of our listeners and watchers to make sure they find out where you guys are performing together, because it's a special grace to see them. Another person that you love, obviously, and it comes across in your concerts and album, is Stephen Sondheim. And for those, in case there's anyone out there listening to or watching a show like this amazing creative talent, Stephen Sondheim, we have a letter writing relationship because I wanted for the longest time to know what his point of view was on the afterlife and on God. And he was very kind, as you know. He always wrote back and he said, I'm so socially awkward on this topic. He said, because I change my belief from day to day. And so we never got to do that interview, but he was kind enough to get back. And even when he said, I'm not sure that I believe, and I pointed out to him when we had Ed Asner on the show, and Ed was coming on 90, and I said, Ed, it says in Wikipedia you identify as a Jewish atheist. Are you still at 90 an atheist? And he said, the closer I get to the end, the more I hope you people are right, So I thought maybe Sondheim too. But again, in terms of the great loves of Liz Callaway, you obviously love Stephen. What did you love about him as a man? Not just as an incredible talent that he is, but as a man.
Well, I loved even with, I worked with him several times. I knew him. He wasn't a close friend. I didn't have the, it's not someone I went out to dinner with, but I loved, like what you just said, how he wrote you back.
Yeah.
He was an incredible teacher. Teaching was vital to him. And he gave back to so many people, so many young writers, anyone who would reach out to him. Yeah. I just thought that was so extraordinary. Yeah. There's an account on Instagram called Sondheim Letters. Oh. And it's just fascinating to be able to just read, right after he passed, and it's almost a year now. Which is hard to believe. Yeah. But, I did the same thing too. I just went through all my letters and my emails with him, and everyone was doing that and sharing stories. And so I, in addition to being an incredible composer and lyricist, I so admired how much he cared about other people and wanting to, and even if he didn't help them, just so people were heard, they were listened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you could write to him and he would,
take the time,
the person. Right? Yeah. He also was one of the best. He had some of the best email etiquette of anyone I could think of. You send an email and then no one likes the email, and no one, takes forever, or they never get back to you. He was I so appreciated that I don't know. It's having respect for another human being. And, and he touched a lot of people and something I'm very grateful to him. And this is, he took a chance on me at the very beginning of my career with my first Broadway show, but without realizing it as it's harder as you get older as an actor and a singer and finding work.
Liz, we're going to go in a moment, but before we do, for our listeners and watchers, Liz years ago was in a show, Follies, where she was also, one of her co-stars was a guest many times on our show, was Elaine Stritch. Elaine was a true diva and intimidating as hell to many people. Liz Callaway is not. She is genuinely a kind, lovely, wonderful lady. On top of which, though, she happens to be immensely talented as a singer and interpreter. Liz, for the folks who are watching and listening to a show like this, I want them to know you by going to concerts and listening to you. I know you have a whole world in terms of animated features, but I want them to pick up your album. And where do people go to get Liz Callaway music?
Well, you could go to my website, lizcallaway.com. Has all my music on it. I have, I've even learned how to have like a little store that I sent for my Sondheim album. Comes out November 11th, and it's like, and I announced yesterday it's available pre-sale, and it's like, okay, I'm going to be signing and shipping, and there's something else I learned how to do. Also, I have a YouTube channel that's fun that has a lot of videos of me singing, and some just singing in my kitchen. Others are from singing in my car or performance videos. But if you start at my website, and I love connecting with my audiences.
And you do it so wonderfully well.
Grateful to be able to, perform live again. And,
Liz Callaway has been our guest. Liz, again, it's been wonderful to be with you. Down the hall from me, living here with me, is my 102-year-old mom, and I'm hoping that Liz Callaway at 102 is still producing, because she's also a good businesswoman, wonderful albums, terrific videos.
I'm planning on it. I'm telling you, one of my great inspirations is Marilyn May, who is still going strong. And, and it's like, I want to be her when I grow up. So key is I'm never going to stop.
Never going to. Thank you again for this time and for just being so open about everything. You're wonderful. And I'll be sure at Christmas time I'll be there in the audience to listen to you and to Anne, because it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
Thank you. Love talking to you again. Let's not let it be another 7 years.
As we end today's program, I want to thank you all for being with us. If you need to reach me, you can write me at personallyspeakingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to this show or past episodes by going on YouTube and searching under Personally Speaking with Msgr Jim Lisante. I'm privileged to serve as host and executive producer, Personally Speaking. Our producer is Lisa Jandovitz. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next time on Personally Speaking.